Well, for more on Toyota, Andrew Phillips, KBC Securities auto analyst, joins us from Tokyo. Andrew, Toyota met the media for the third time in 12 days. Can he even begin to repair the damage that's been done? Isn't it too little, too late?
Yeah, well, I think that the company has been rather slow in its PR response on this. To be fair, the company has never been one of the more proactive when it comes to talking to the press, but certainly it does look as though there is, having 3 press conferences in, I think it's 12 days or so, it does look as though the company is, trying to sort of scrabbling to catch back up. I think, what was sort of encouraging in the press conference yesterday, they talked about this electronic throttle problem. This was, in the press release. This is something which, there has been some concerns about inviting some of the third-party testing in, because I think there are perhaps some concerns, as Toyota being completely honest, and I think they are trying to, throw a lot of light onto that situation.
Some people say that the problem has become way too big. I mean, what does Toyota need to do right now to save its reputation, to get back its customers?
Well, I think, one of the issues here, why it sort of has turned into such a big issue, is just the huge number of vehicles which are being recalled. But, partly this is a function of just the sheer size of the company. If you're selling 8 or 9 million cars a year globally, of course your recalls are going to be much bigger than somebody selling only, say, 3 or 4 million. It's also been compounded by the fact that you've got, common components. This is one of the ways in which companies have been reducing costs. So when you actually look at 2 of the recalls, the one with the sticky accelerators, the Prius brake problem, the problem itself was, only coming up under some fairly rare situations. So, certainly, this should have been caught in the company's testing, but actually, the problems itself weren't that major. So I think what the company needs to do is, perhaps do a bit more of a better explanation of how they create, what caused the problem, how they're taking steps to stop different or, similar problems coming through in the future, so they can try and reassure the customers that their vehicles are safe. And certainly, one aspect which could help if, they've given an explanation of this is on, like an extended warranty or something.
The U.S., of course, investigating about 34 deaths linked to some of these Toyota cars. What's significance of this? What impact will it have on Toyota?
Well, the difficulty here is, was there some sort of, was there some intentional neglect or not? I mean, that's, I think, what's really the crucial issue here. Was the company aware that there was a problem and they intentionally did nothing about it, leading to these problems, or was it, in terms of, taking time to go through and identifying it? So, in terms of the number of complaints, if you look at, relative to the size of the company, a recent study by Edmunds, which is a US auto market research company, looking at the complaints to the NHTSA from 2001 to the beginning of this month, Toyota ranked 17th out of 20 companies. So the actual number has been relatively small, and so I think they are trying to, trying to just show that there hasn't been any sort of intentional cover-ups. I think that's the main problem. And as you read some of the different auto blogs in the US, it does look as though there are some pretty loyal customers out there who probably are still prepared to give Toyota the benefit of the doubt. So I don't know that we'll really see the sales completely collapse, but certainly some impact is looking likely.
Even so, can you quantify the potential damage given the lawsuits that we're seeing? We have, 49 lawsuits filed on behalf of customers in the U.S. and Canada, and at least 13 lawsuits brought about by individuals. I mean, surely that will impact the company.
Well, it may do, but I mean, to be honest, when you're doing business in America, lawsuits are a fact of life. I mean, they come through quite regularly. When you look at other companies, and sometimes these things can take a long time to go through. Often companies will have insurance for them, so if you're talking about the direct financial impact, it can be fairly limited. I think, they sort of almost have to prove that there was some sort of intentional cover-up or negligence on the part of the company.
The Corolla recall. How bad would it be?
Well, again, from what I've, obviously there hasn't been an official recall announced yet, and so this sounds as though it's on the current model, which went into production about 2 years ago. The reports that I've read is it talks about overly sensitive power steering. Again, this sort of sounds like perhaps a bit of a control software issue. As I say, I don't know, I haven't seen any data, but the complaints of overly sensitive steering, that does sort of sound like a control issue more than anything. And so again, a bit like the Prius brakes, rather than some sort of mechanical failure or mechanical defect, it may be to do with the control program, and that can generally be relatively easy to remedy. if that's the
Andrew,
case.
what do we do with Toyota shares?
Well, certainly
they're down, what, 10% year to date, 10-year low? Do we buy?
I certainly don't think there's a lot of downside at these levels. I mean, the stock, you know, it's been sort of up and down, but it sort of keeps bouncing off about 3,200 yen. I don't know that there's a lot of downside from these levels, so I don't know that I really want to be aggressively shorting it. But, you know, with that uncertainty on the news flow, it is sort of, you know, perhaps difficult to, you know, really, you know, sort of say it is a strong buy because we just don't know quite how the news flow is going to unfold in the near future.
Okay, and your target for Toyota shares by year end?
Oh, well, you know, that, you know, when you look at this stock, I mean, it does tend to trade quite a bit. I mean, just in the last, you know, less than a month or so ago, we're at 4,200 yen. I certainly don't see, you know, if this issue is resolved, that, you know, it could easily get quite back to those levels. It really just depends how the sort of the news flow plays out on this one.
Andrew Phillips, KBC Securities, thank you so much for your insights today.